The second half of the season on the Everspecha FIL Luge World Cup is officially underway at one of the hubs of sliding sports. We're in beautiful Berchtesgaden, Koenigssee, for stop number 5. It's the doubles competition. Hi again, everyone. I'm Tim Singer. The temperature hovering right around freezing, just above in the air, just below on the ice temperature, as we'll see how things hold out with a long weekend of sliding, doubles and men today, and then tomorrow it's the women's singles to be followed by the team relay. A great look here on the shores of Kings Lake, Lake Koenigssee, a track that was built in 1969, the first artificially refrigerated track. And right now, to tell us more about this competition venue, I'm pleased to announce my co-commentator, prominent sliding sports announcer, Martin Haven. Morning, Martin.
Good morning, Tim. Good morning, everybody. Well, let's take a look here as we drop down from the men's start. This is ground zero, isn't it, for ice sliding, and particularly for the FIL, for the Luge, because this is where they are based. First big challenge, the Schlangengruber, the 4 S's, then down the straightaway, the bend away as it's known to the North Americans, turning into the Kreisel, full 360-degree, 3-pressure Kreisel, and the exit here is make or break into Kehlstein and down through the Doodles. Those sidewalls come at you like brick walls if you've got the line wrong. Huge Echovant, massive pressure here, climbing uphill all the way now through the old finish curve, and then the long climb to the line, which is just there. It is so easy to give away speed and time on this track. It is really technical. It's a proper old school racer's track.
Largest field of the season as the North Americans have joined in on the fun. This will be the first race for one Canadian and one USA team who are entered into the 24-team field. But as you see right here on the final page, it's the 2 Germans, Egert Benneken and the 2 Tobys from right here in Bavaria. They will be the favorites, and they're currently tied for the lead in all-time career World Cup wins, 45 apiece.
So let's get our competition underway with the first pair from Macedonia. As with all of our first dozen, they qualified yesterday in the Nations Cup race. Yannick Siskanu and Julian Oprea. And they are going to give us some indication of what the track is like this morning. 30-second clock running down to the start.
Off and on their way, as you know, Martin, a lot of paddles from this lower start here, which is just one story below the bobsled skeleton start. But before you know it, they're right at these 4 very tricky S-curves.
And the S-curves just flow together. From S1, the speed picks up, the height picks up, and it's the exit of S4 that gives you your straightaway. Foot down there just as a little correction.
The Moldovians in their 3rd World Cup race, or their 4th, in what really is their first full season for this nation in this sport. Now we should announce here, Martin, right down here, curve number 13, the C curve. It's been known as C curve for years, but it has been renamed the Fent curve in honor of the outgoing longtime FIL president, Josef Sepp Fent.
Yeah, Sepp Fent living down here in Berchtesgaden. This is definitely the home for the Luge and for the Bobsleigh Federation. And as you say, this is the first artificial track that was opened back in 1969. And originally then it was a Luge track.
This is the exit of curve, or the S4 rather. We'll be seeing this a lot as what looks like a straightaway heading to the Kreisel is anything but, with the Jenner curve approaching right after that replay. So first let down safely.
So next up from the Ukraine, Ilohoy and Rostislav Lecevsky.
Pair of 21-year-olds, Lecevsky, the bottom man from the large city of Kiev. The Ukrainians have their own program, and Martin, you know, a lot of the smaller nations in the sport of luge actually travel together as the, quote, FIL team. But Ukraine has done pretty well on its own, autonomous, and they've actually had some decent results, a few top 10s this season.
Little slower start, 61 thousandths behind as they drop into the first of the S's. Big sweeping corner 3 and then 4. Oh, and really got 4 completely wrong.
This team currently ranked 22nd in the World Cup standings.
They finished in 18th place in last season's World Cup race here, but you can see he's got his feet down all the way. And although that gives you stability, it's like dropping an anchor.
At this point, the course comes uphill, which means if you've made mistakes in that lower labyrinth, and there will be plenty today, you have just killed your time.
Yeah, 6/10 back. And the coach there gave us the replay out of S4. The sled just so out of control. He had no option but put his feet down almost all the way through the lower part of the track.
And there again is that exit of S4 as they approach the Kreisel. All 4 German tracks have a 360-degree or at least a 270-degree Kreisel curve.
And of course, a Kreisel coming in the brand new Olympic track in Beijing as well, which we'll see later in the year. From Romania, our youngest pair, Mircea Turea and Sebastian Mocha behind him. There you get a great view of the Kufen, the runners, square-edged with a sharp edge to the blade like an ice skate. But unlike an ice skate, they still have that rocking chair pattern where there's only the tiniest of contact patches. It's about the same as a fingernail, the contact patch, and that's what makes these sleds so difficult to control when they get away from you.
Another rough weekend for the Romanians as a young athlete tested positive for COVID, one of the very few positive tests all season long. In fact, all 3 positive tests have been from Romania. So most of the team will be competing, Martin, but a few of them who shared a vehicle with the positive tester have to sit out this week and next week.
Yeah, it's pretty tough, isn't it? But you've got to keep the bubble as hermetically sealed as possible. Nice looking run from the 2 Romanians. They had the best start. They've been in the green all the way down. Out of echo, you can still give away a 1/4 of a second easily to the line. But this is a really nice looking run. Excellent stuff. 52.153 for the Romanians, a 1.2 second lead.
That was a great example, what you saw there of this FIL team in which I was talking about. The man on the right, who we've seen a couple of times, Maciej Korabski of Poland, former competitor, now coaching the small nations.
And watch the exit of S3, has a little bobble, really big steer to get the line in S4. It comes out absolutely straight down the tubes. Now that may be a really great start to their weekend. And again, immediately the face mask comes off, the face mask goes on. Next up then from the Czech Republic.
Ukrainians are actually going next. Again,
I beg your pardon, yes.
Second team from Ukraine.
This is Igor Starky and Andrei Lecevsky.
Decent results so far this year, Martin, all in the teens, as high as 14th place twice for this young duo.
14 thousandths quicker at the start than our Romanian leaders. And they're still in the green into the S's. A little smoother into S4, and that should pay. It's a nice line down the bend away. Top speed so far through the Kreisel, 109.3 kilometers an hour, 64 miles an hour. 1/4 of a second up.
This labyrinth down below, very tricky, very tight turns, and they're keeping it very smooth. I'm really impressed with this run, by far the best we've seen in this early going.
Yeah, excellent stuff. So Ukrainian coach happy with that.
Hey Martin, it's a good time in the early action here to welcome our viewers from around the world. We've had people watching Luge from 96 different countries so far this season. If you'd like to share your thoughts, your comments, your questions, you can find us on Twitter at Luge Announcer. You can also email us, luge.announcer@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, your thoughts, as well as where you're watching from today.
So now we move on to our team from the Czech Republic, finished in 16th place in last season's World Cup race, so they qualified again from the Nations Cup. This is Filip Vejilek and Zdeněk Pěkný.
18th place finish at the World Championships last year. In the World Cup overall, they were 21st. Top man, Pěkný, still just 19 years old, just turned 19, even though this is his third season on the World Cup.
Big long reach he's got as they're paddling down into the first corner, but they're behind at the start. And this is like drag racing. If you don't have the go off the line, it's very hard to make up for that lack of engine power. Oh, and again, a little too early down off S4. Better down the bend away than the earlier Ukrainian sled we saw. Big second pressure in the Kreisel, leaves him in trouble coming down into the doodles. They're actually making it look really quite straightforward. We've seen some big crashes there in, well, almost every season you care to name.
Every season, every sport.
Yep.
As they cross in second place, a distant second place behind the Ukrainians.
Yeah, there's a big gap there, isn't there? Half a second from first to third. We could see a few more sleds dropping into that chasm behind our Ukrainian duo.
Well, this is the exit once again of S4, but you were referring, Martin, to the lower section of this course, the lower labyrinth. Lots of danger. There was a crash, bad crash yesterday during the Nations Cup with a young Russian athlete who's still in the hospital, but we're told is okay. We'll update that story in a little bit.
6 of our start teams, and the first World Cup of the season for Canadians Tristan Walker and Justin Smith. Now, I can't think that there'll be too many times they'll have missed half a World Cup season since they joined the campaign.
In effect, they've actually missed a full season because the Canadians really took off most of the second half of last season. And of course, you're looking at an Olympic medal winning team. Tristan and Justin, part of that Canada silver medal in Pyeongchang in 2018 in the team relay.
Loving the look of the sled with the shark's mouth on the front. Shows great intent. As John Morgan, our colleague, always says, dress like a team, act like a team. In the green again. Whoa.
You're not suggesting that John's good for a cliche or two each race, are you?
Well, it's a great truism. A little early on to Echo maybe. Big second pressure. Just a little untidy below the doodles. That little untidy all the way down below the Kreisel, but that is a big run. And of course, because they haven't got any points from this season, the ranking, the seeding is based on your last 3 races. They have 0 points in seeding, so they've had to qualify, and now they're going to come up through the backfield.
Well, I was speaking with Coach Wolfgang Staudinger of the Canadian team just a couple of days ago, and he said that the goals are very modest this year. For this doubles team, they're going to be looking for some top 6 performances. That's what they're hoping for in this half season.
Well, can you imagine, you know, they've been sat at home, watching, listening, and just so frustrated, desperate to race. And so for right now, I imagine their only goal is just race.
Hey, it's there are worse things to do, Martin, than hanging out in Whistler for a couple of months, right?
Never know. There aren't many scarier tracks to be practicing on either. Okay, next up from Slovakia, Tomas Vavacek and Matej Schmidt. Another young duo, just 21 years old.
6th place finishers at the Youth Olympic Games in Lillehammer in 2016. Their best result so far this year on the World Cup, a pair of 16th place finishes in Eagles and in Altenburg.
They finished in 14th place in last year's World Cup race here, but again, just brought it down a little hard and early out of S4. Tidies things up in the bend away.
Best speeds we've seen so far, 69.2 miles per hour.
Going to need all of that. They're 1600s behind our current leaders. How close will they get? Looks a little tidier down in the last few corners. Will they be ahead at the line? No, not going to be, are they? Half a second back. So they were bleeding time all the way down.
Yeah, to be
Just
honest.
Walker and,
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Martin. You were about to mention Walker and Smith. They're so far ahead, and I was actually a little surprised that they were back in 7th place yesterday in the Nations Cup qualifying, so perhaps they cleared up whatever mistake they made there.
yeah, and set up and, you know, first night nerves and all of that stuff. You can imagine, you know, possibly overdriving the first run as well, just really, really eager to get through. So our track DJ coming up with a little bit of suitable accordion music for Yuri Gatt and Ricardo Schupf of Austria, and another pair of teenagers.
I'll lay you 3-1 odds that when the Americans come up in about 5 minutes, you're going to hear Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA playing over the speakers.
Yeah, our track announcers and the guy who plays the music down the bottom, Vasti Rasp. Yeah, he has a fairly strict regime.
Well, that's a nice exit of S4, and there you get a better look at the Jena curve or the bend away right into the Kreisel. It's so important to just be so clean there to pick up the speed for this portion of the track. As John likes to say, the slingshot shooting you down to the bottom half.
And you either hit everything in sight in that lower labyrinth, or you just trickle through there like mercury. And that was a really good run. Looked like they had the best speed in the Kreisel. Will they get to the leaders? No, lost more speed.
So we talk about this every week, and one thing you have to keep an eye on from the midway point on in every run is how the track is holding up. And sometimes we see clean runs, but we do not see good times. That might be the track, that might be the runners. It's so tough to tell this early.
Oh, look at this, down through the lower labyrinth, just a little left, gets a bump away from the wall. That wasn't a bad looking run at all. That leaves them in 2nd place with Tristan Walker and Justin Smith still our leaders. We're getting through to the final qualifiers now with our 9th starting pair, Jin Young Park and Young Myung Cho from Korea.
No top 10s for this Korean duo this season, but they did have a career best 4th place last year in Winterberg, which was a very encouraging sign. And Martin, of course, it's very encouraging just to see the Koreans still out here in the sport now, 2.5, 3 years after their Olympic Games.
Yeah.
So key to this sport for the teams and the nations to stick with it, even after they've hosted an Olympics.
And of course, in the really early days of sliding, Koreans were present in luge before they even started skeleton and bobsleigh. So they have good sliding history. It didn't just arrive in their country because of the games.
That's right.
It certainly became very much a popular conception of what these things were because of the games. And that definitely helps with funding.
Well, they're losing a bit more time here. They're not going to catch the Canadians. At best, they can look at 2nd place. It's 3rd. It's actually just 15 thousandths of a second out of 2nd, but a half second behind the leading Canadians.
Yeah, the big challenge for Walker and Smith probably is coming up right now, but 15 thousandths out of 2nd place for the Koreans. That should see them just about in the top dozen as we get to the end of our first heat.
Well, the next 3 to come are the 3 sleds, or the 3 teams that were on the podium yesterday in the Nations Cup qualifying. It's a very stressful one-heat race to even make it into the main field. This is the lone USA entrant, although, Martin, 2 American teams did qualify for the World Cup this year. One had to stay behind in the States due to some scheduling conflicts.
So Chris Mazda and Jason Terdeman. Mazda is the athletes rep at the FIL and your colour announcer, Tim, for the last couple of races as well. So he must be, again, just gagging to get on with this.
Jason also joined me for several races. Chris, the busiest man in the sport, athlete rep, doubles competitor, and we will see him later today in men's singles, where he has won an Olympic medal.
Well, They were just a smidge behind their Canadian rivals at the start, and not a great exit out of S4. Straight down the middle of the track into the Kreisel. Watch for the second pressure. Much more controlled now as we get the more experienced pairs, and that's a great exit.
Well, they'll try to cut into it. They were 2,100 back at that second to last split. If we see them keep it close here, it's an indication that the bottom of the track will still yield some fast times. Let's check it out. They about doubled that deficiency. They're in second place, but again, a distant second.
Yeah, and again, you know, it's like watching something like NASCAR. When a car doesn't seem to be sliding around, when a driver doesn't seem to be making mistakes, you look then at what happens with the contact patch. Now, this is where the first 2 tenths went away.
And so they'll wait and see. Chris usually has some words for the camera. Let's listen. Now, even he's silent with that run as we move on to yesterday's second place team from Russia, Kashkin and Korshuna. They finished fourth, very respectable fourth, Martin, last year on their home track at the World Championship.
But not great memories, though, of Koenigssee. They crashed out in the first heat in last year's World Cup race. Nations Cup champions 2018-2019 season.
And lest we forget, this is the first of 2 races to be held here in Koenigssee this month. It's the rescheduled World Championships that were originally slated to be held in Whistler. They moved to Koenigssee. It's too bad for the Canadians, but everyone loves this place, Martin. This is so many losers' favorite track.
If you're going to have a substitute World Championships venue, this is right at the very top of your list, definitely. If you can't get to North America, then come back to the heartland. Yeah, they can stage a World Championships at the drop of a hat at this place. They've done it so many times, and that's a great run at the bottom, 18 thousandths. They take the lead of the race from Walker and Smith with Mazda and Turnerman in third, and they pulled that out below Echo.
That's right. We had referred to that before. They found some speed down at the bottom, which will make everything a little more interesting, a little more dramatic moving forward. Hey, you know, Martin, several athletes, when we were discussing a bubble in sports, which we hear a lot about recently, suggest that they wouldn't have minded if the entire season was held here in this one venue.
And it's easy to bubble in a beautiful venue like this as well. You know, if you're in a hotel room and you look out the window and it looks the way this place does, you're always happy. Now, from Winterberg in the Hochsauerland, Robin Goyke and David Gamm, our first German duo. They took gold in the Nations Cup race yesterday. Let's see what they can do here. 6th place finish for them last year, but it's their first World Cup of the season, Tim, because Hannes Orland-Moida and Paul Gubitz are not here.
Well, it's great to see Coach Norbert Locke bringing this duo back. Robin and David have had several podiums in their career, but they've also been having tough times the last couple of seasons. So they really lost their spot, but it's a great opportunity for them to earn it back. It had to have killed them to not be able to race 2 weeks ago on their home track in Winterberg.
And the deal with the Germans is if you miss the autumn cut, they always reshuffle the teams in all their sliding sports over the Christmas-New Year break. So there's another chance. They took bronze in the World Cup race in Oberhof last year. Their only medal last year in a limited program. So is this them on their return? They're still in the green over the Russians.
They just lose it at the end by 100th of a second. There's Coach Norbert Locke, and he was saying a couple of days ago that basically the top 2 doubles, the top 3 singles, men and women, those positions are pretty well set for the World Championships later this month. But the likes of Goyke and Gamm and other singles athletes are vying for those final world spots.
And that's one of the toughest things about being Norbert Locke, isn't it? So much talent, and you have to make those tough choices. You have to decide which of potential medal winners you're not taking. So we are done with our qualifiers. We now get into our top seeds. This is Emmanuel Aviva and Simon Kreinswaldner of Italy. from, as you can imagine, Südtirol, the German-speaking region in the Italian Alps.
Yes, so close, yet so far they have had 4 top 6 finishes so far this season, although they've yet to find the podium. But it's really a much improved, still young pairing. These guys are 2 former singles athletes that are, this is their 2nd full season as a doubles team.
And it's a huge sea change to go from being a singles athlete to being part of this massively different feeling double sled. Huge extra weight, more length. It's the 2-man to 4-man bobsleigh, but magnified, I think, even more.
No question about it. I mean, and they both have different roles. So in 2-man bobsledding, the back man just has to get in and duck down low. But both the top and bottom men have steering responsibilities in doubles luge. And
41 thousandths in front. They grab the lead.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Armin rocking a yellow jacket. I'm not sure what that's all about down there at the coaches area.
World Cup leader. It's interesting, isn't it, that it's less sliding, and it's more like if you had a 2-seater motorcycle racer. That's more what this doubles luge is like. You're not just a sack of potatoes as the second man. You have such an active part to play.
That's
and a great look,
exactly
great
right.
look there through that lower labyrinth. The hypermotion camera makes it look so easy. Boy, the speed they're hitting those berms, it ain't easy at all. So next up, again from Italy, so we'll get a bit more Armin. We're looking at the pair that finished in 4th place in last year's World Cup race here. Ivan Nagler and Fabian Malaya.
Well done, Malaya, yeah.
Yeah.
Couple of 7th place finishes this year, one in Eagles, one in Oberhof. That has been their 2 best for still the youngest of the Italian teams, who surprised a lot of people when they made the Olympic team in 2018. A little shaky there at the start with what they call the settle. They got the paddles down, but then the sled just jilted a little bit when they were leaning down.
1500s up on their compatriots. Nice exit out of S4. Top man immediately gets his head back. As soon as you know you're on the right line, head back out of the slipstream. Apart from anything else, it saves the neck muscles a little. Nice Kreisel and a decent exit there. Carries good speed, 1500s up.
This should be the new leading team. We still have 10 to come, of course, but they are clean all the way through. This is a really nice run. 50.512. Just as a point of comparison, folks, that's still over a full second off of the track record, and we have not seen a single track record challenged over the first 5 stops this year. Part of that, most of that, is actually weather-induced.
It usually is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you have Kufen as sharp as these are that make as much of an impression on the ice, the colder, the harder the ice is, the smaller the contact patch you can run, the quicker you go. So yeah, the Tobys still have the outright track record from January 2016. It's now approaching 5 years old. That's a long time for a record to exist in any sport.
No question about it. And I should actually stand corrected, because we did see some track records in Oberhof, but that was for one good reason. You know what that reason is? They had just renovated the track. So it was a brand new track in effect.
So Samarit's track records. Change the track, change the record. Alexander Denisev and Vladislav Antonov behind him.
Been a difficult season for this pair of Russians who have Olympic and World Championship medals. They missed the first 2 events after COVID positive to start the season, and then they got disqualified in the last race in Winterberg. In fact, the Russian coaches, even as recently as last night, were still trying to contest that disqualification, which I believe was for overheated runners.
And they won the Nations Cup as the qualifiers there in that race in Winterberg, so they would have been looking for a little bit more than that. They are behind, though, and these guys didn't have a great run here last year, only 13th, whereas Nagler and Malaya, who have just gone down, finished in 4th, just off the podium, and just about got away with that, but it will cost him time.
The Russians have such a reputation of, this is kind of cliche, but I can't know how to better put it, Martin. They slide on the edge. They're always on the edge of disaster. If they can pull it off, they have fast times. But if you're not perfect, you have what you saw there, a third, or rather a sixth place time, over a quarter of a second back.
One of the biggest crashes I can remember seeing in Luge down in the Doodles was Albert Demchenko trying to beat Armin Sergler to the gold. And it was, win it or bin it. And it was a quite spectacular bin it, I'm afraid.
Hey, a couple of quick shout-outs. Hester, our good friend, is watching in the Netherlands this morning. And Luge Moms, as always, in Saranac Lake, New York. And Ken in Durham, North Carolina. And, of course, our friend Uda from Dresden, who puts on such a great media room in Altenburg.
And that's where the bobsleigh and skeleton world championships will be at the end of the year. Wojciech Trzemeski and Jakub Kowalewski of Poland. These are among our older competitors now, approaching the age of 30. Tim, the field gets younger every season, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, which is a lot of fun to see, changing the guard. That's going to happen usually right after an Olympiad. So whoever is older now will hang out at least through next season, but then there will be more new fresh blood. And what a problem coming out of S4. No chance to recover. And they'll have a clean Kreisel here, Martin, but that is simply a product of so much less speed going in.
Yeah. Well, their best results this year so far in the World Cup races, a couple of 11th places. They weren't racing in Innsbruck, but this is going to just see them plummet down the order.
Unfortunate. It was big weekend 2 weeks ago for Poland, who earned the podium in the team relay at the race in Oberhof. But disappointment to start off this new year for Chmielewski and Kowalewski.
Yeah, 1.3 seconds back, and that will leave them in 12th place. So, as ever, still lots to fight for in the second heat. But here, we see it so many times. He was just late in the S's, knew he was going to crash, had to really steer it down hard. And then it's a different kind of crash all the way down the bend away.
Well, just settle in now because the race is about to begin. We have another Russian team, then we have 2 Latvians, 2 Austrians, and 2 Germans to conclude run number 1. This is probably where it all begins.
Oskars Gudrimovics and Piteris Kalnins from Latvia. 4th place in Winterberg, their best World Cup result so far this season. Are they going to be in the hunt for a medal here as well? They finished in 10th place in last year's Koenigssee race.
3-time Olympians with just one top 10. That was the 10th place at the Sochi Games.
Had a little bump on the left-hand wall just as they dropped off into the settle, and that is going to take away whatever start speed they had. Now that's a good exit out of S4 and a good bend away. Watch him leading with the toes.
Well, I'm not that good at the technical analysis, not having been a luger, but it does look like Oscar's head is up quite a bit, which keeps things safe. But look, they're having problems down here in the lower S's.
Yeah, really struggling for control. They had good speed as well, 111 kilometers an hour, but that makes the accident even faster when you drop down into the lower labyrinth. And self-preservation has a big part of it. 7th place, 3600s back.
Looking forward only now at this point for next week, which will be the one and only race to be held this season on their home track in Sigulda.
And again here, feet down, and although they've got those neoprene booties which are smooth, it still has a big braking effect as well as balancing. I mean, think of yourself when you're tobogganing. What happens when it all goes a bit squirrely? You put your feet down to slow you down. That's exactly the same here.
Such a great point. I've asked athletes over the years whether that maneuver of putting the feet down is planned, instinct, or thought on the moment. And I've gotten 3 different answers. Some people say, you know, I'm prepared to put my feet down. Others say I have no control. It's just what my body does.
And do you know what? I think depending on where it happens, the brain takes over, either conscious or subconscious, and just gets on with it.
As it
I think
should.
you're absolutely right. Out to the Kreisel here. I think instinct just is self-preservation. Vladislav Ushakov and Yuri Prokhorov behind him. These guys, hugely experienced veterans in the Russian team. Finished only 9th here last year, so let's see if they can move themselves a little closer to the podium.
And frankly, it's not been a great year this season as well for this veteran pair. Only one top 10, 8th place finish in Eagles, and Russia has been a bit of a mystery all season. Last year, they were the best nation in the sport in terms of total results, top to bottom, Germany included. But only one victory this year for Russia. I'm not sure there have even been any other podiums.
3 tenths behind from the start. This is not an encouraging looking run. It's pretty neat. Got through the lower labyrinth, out of the Fendt curve, through Ekovant. Not bad, avoided the wall on the right, which is such a problem for our early sliders. And across the line, 8th place.
Wow.
But 3 tenths of that was lost at the start.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the one victory was certainly not in doubles for Russia. It was women's singles, even Nova back in Altenburg. This is going to be interesting, Martin, as we get ready for our next sled, because Italy is holding the top 2 spots here at the moment, and their strongest team, at least in this season's results, getting ready to go at the top. Clearly, they're doing something right, at least for this track on this day. So let's get ready for Reeder and Rastner, who hold the start record on this course.
Now our Russians, as well as going slowly, have gone a little too far up the outrun, so there might be a very slight delay for Ludwig Reeder and Patrick Rastner. 8th place finish here last year, so if they can get themselves into the top 3 or 4, that will be a big step up.
Yeah, I think last year is all but forgotten for this two, who are just having a really good comeback year. And that's one of the differences between bobsleigh and luge, is in luge, even if you go way up the outrun, you can get that sled out of there pretty quickly.
Yeah. Problem is they've got no grip on the ice in their little booties, so it's moving the men more than the sled. That's the tricky bit. Okay, let's see what they've got at the start. 2.8. Oh, they're quicker. 38 thousandths quicker at the start than their compatriots. And it's always good when you're prone and you're already in the lead.
Most consistent team on the circuit this year. Top 6 in every race. No victories, but 1 podium, a 3rd in Eagles, which is really their home track for the Italians, at least until they complete that Cortina course.
And that was a bronze in the sprint as well, so that's an indication of what their starting is like. 55 thousandths up still. They haven't increased the gap, but they haven't lost anything. And this is the run that's going to put them into the lead. It looked clean from Echo, looked clean in the seal curve, and at the line, 34 thousandths in front, so they held most of that advantage. Armin circling now, stop the count.
Exactly.
1, 2, 3 for Italy. That's it. Slow it off. Well, yeah,
end the race now. That's right. And let the red wine and the pasta celebrate, because Italy 1, 2, 3. Hugely
encouraging start to the new year for them, though. Not quite the new season. So 2021 off to a start for gangbusters for Italy.
Well, it's just such a great look at Ludwig there, just barely peeking up out of S4. He knows this track. He's been through this a lot. But now let's see what the Germans can do. And it's usually they can do pretty well. You got a little race within the race, as always, each week in World Cup Luge and doubles. Vendel Alt are up on deck. But here are Egert and Bennekin. Martin, they are tied for career World Cup victories all time, 45 each. They're Olympic champions, they're world champions. This is the greatest rivalry in the sport of luge right now, and it's between 2 teams from the same nation.
but from very different regions. Eggert and Beneken based at the Oberhof track, and the Tobys based here in Berchtesgaden. And that's as much a national battle as Germany versus Italy, frankly.
I've long said that the biggest rivalries in luge are always between these regions of Germany. Well, they're doing it very well here. This is a team that finds speed below, and just as I'm saying that, they go from red to green in the Kreisel curve. Now a full tenth. This could be a quarter of a second when they're done, Martin. I wouldn't be surprised.
Smooth as silk, these guys. Absolutely fantastic run from Eggert and Beneken. They have the lead by, look at you, 36 hundredths.
It's amazing. It is amazing. I mean, part of that is momentum. Part of that is this sled they keep very secret from everyone else. But I have seen this team find 2/10 on the last 4 or 5 curves many times throughout the years. I'm not sure how they do it.
It's a German trait, finding speed lower down on the track after maybe not the greatest start. Everybody's looking for big starters, but the Germans work with good sliders. Eggert and Beneken lead in our first heat. We have 4 sleds remaining in the first of our 2 heats here. So let's see what the local heroes can produce. Our world champions have shown what they have in the locker room. Now our Olympic champions, the Tobys. Tobias Wendel, Tobias Alt.
Such a great look at one of the most beautiful spots on earth, Koenigssee. 4-time Olympic medalists, 2 in doubles, 2 in team relay. I'm talking about 4 times Olympic gold medalists.
Now the Tobys did not win here last year. Eggert and Beneken took the gold away from them on home ice.
Did
I
mention this was a rivalry? Yeah. Hey, that was a great shot of Deanna Eitberger, trackside. We'll see her tomorrow in the women's singles race. She was taking some video for the German team.
Yeah. That'll be, or maybe a little shot on Instagram, 36 thousandths up to 54 thousandths out of the S's. 1:11.7, excellent speed.
Really well done. They call them the Bayern Express. This is their home track. This is their home expressway. The Bavarians coming across the finish curve. Can they catch them? It's uphill now. They've been in the green the whole way. Eggert Beneken so fast at the bottom. So the Tobys lost a little down there on the bottom part, but had enough in the bank from the first half to hang on to their lead, setting up, Martin, what will be yet again another spectacular duel in run number 2 between these 2 Germans.
And of course, these 2 guys, the Tobys, will have grown up watching Patrick Leitner and Alexander Resch from Koenigssee.
That's right.
Wiping the floor with everybody in luge doubles, watching Georg Hackel wiping the floor with everybody in the men's singles, watching the Silkers, Silke Otto, Silke Kraushaar, Barbara Niedenhuber here from Berchtesgaden. So much luge sliding talent based in this one tiny corner of Germany. And that's what inspired them to get into it. And they are very much making their own history. Now then, 3 to go, and we get to our final pair of pairs from Austria, the other huge powerhouse in doubles luge. Our World Cup leaders, Thomas Stoy and Lawrence Koller, didn't race here last year. What are they going to do this season?
Well, a 7th place in Winterberg is the only time this season they have failed to place in the top 2 in a World Cup race. Stoy and Kohler missed the second half of last season, a broken leg from Thomas Stoy, the top man. But boy, have they been rock solid so far this season.
Well, their last Koenigssee result, as you say, 2 years ago, bronze medalists, so they do know where they're going. But they are behind by a quarter of a second. They have not got a setup that is working today. Funnily enough, the Germans both have.
Well, let's see if they can stay in front of some of the Italians. They can. Yeah, so they found some good speed down there at the bottom. 1, 2, 3 in the standings right now. The Tobys Egert Beneken and Stoy and Kohler, those are the three, Martin, you would expect to see leading the way, but we still have two to come.
Yes, we do, including one of the podium finishing pairs from last season. So it's by no means guaranteed that they're going to end up in third place after this run. So just remind you, they go in reverse order of their first heat performance in the second heat. The leader has the longest waits to defend that slender advantage, and it is always a slender advantage.
Well, there's a look of a beautiful exit of S-curve, and then Thomas just peaked up for a split second. It's all you need to do if you're comfortable on a track. Now the final Austrian pair.
Yeah, Yannick Muller and Armin Frauscher crashed out in the second heat in the race here last year, so undoubtedly they feel that this track owes them a little.
And undoubtedly they're a very different team now in their third season together. They've had a great year, 6th in the World Cup standings, 2 podiums for another pair of former singles sliders that just didn't have a spot in their nation's singles lineup, so teamed up to form a doubles team, and a pretty good one at that.
Yeah, their first 2 World Cup medals have come this season. Silver in Innsbruck, bronze in Oberhof now. 2 very different tracks. And that shows that they're not Innsbruck only one-trick ponies, but they are behind here down into the Kreisel.
Thomas Stoy, the top man, comes from the far western city of Bludenz in Austria, where they just completed the newest luge track in the world, which will host the Junior World Championships next season.
Yeah, super short.
Yeah, that was the design. It's a short track, so to speak. Hey, short track.
1:11.8.
Sorry about that. Short track speed skating has become so popular. Why not try short track luge?
Well, the deal with short track speed skating is you get to go round more than once.
And everyone goes at once.
Yes. So Yannick Muller, Armin Frauscher in 4th place with 1 to go. That is a good opening shot from our top Austrian pair. Not at top of the pile. Stoy and Kohler are at the moment. But look at this, down through the lower labyrinth, through the doodles. Avoiding that left-hand wall is absolutely crucial for speed down through the Fendt curve and towards Echo Wand. And the exit out of Echo, they just brushed up against the filleting in the wall, across the line. Which leaves us with our Yeti. Some have seen the Yeti.
I've heard stories about the Yeti coming right down the Botsman Mountain, disrupt the luge race, cause some gremlins along the track.
So here we go with the brothers from Latvia, Andris in front and Juris 6, 35 and 37 years old. And again, we're talking about real veterans of the sport here, lots of paddling. 74 thousandths behind though as they get into the settle.
3 Olympic medals for this duo, 2 World Cup victories, both last year. And if it holds to form, they will be in the top 6. And if they are, the top 6 in the standings today will be the same 6 teams that lead the World Cup standings. Ooh, Andres lifted his leg just a little bit there. I'm not sure if that was an experienced correction.
Usually when you see the legs move that much, that's a huge steer. 1:11.2 rather than 1:11.8 or 9, which we've seen in the Kreisel. So he lost speed in Kehlstein, loses speed there, rubs up against the wall on the exit of Echo. Exit of Seal curve rather, and 4 tenths behind. Top 6 at the end of the first heat for Andris and Juris 6 from Latvia. But it is the Tobies who lead from last year's winners, Egert and Beneken, and 26 thousandths between them. 3rd place, Stoy and Kohler, 18 hundredths behind. It has all the hallmarks of being a 2-horse race right now.
Yeah, standings coming up in a moment, but again, the top 6 in the standings are the top 6 in the World Cup points. It's sort of capitalism luge style as the rich get richer.
Well, it shows why they are in the top 6 in the World Cup rankings at the midway point of the season. That's talent will out. So Andris and Juris 6 in 6th, Rieder and Rassner, the track record holders, in 5th, Muller Frauscher in 4th. And is there a battle for the medals, 1800s to 2600s? It could be a good run to overhaul Stoyan Koller, but it is really a two-horse race with Eggert and Benneken and the Tobies Vendel and Alt at the top of the pile. But everybody gets to go in the second and deciding heat, Tim, so plenty still to play for wherever you are. There is a battle either to hold your position